Most important week of the year. And I will say we are going to get you all an in-depth video after Monday with our real results, picture for picture. Here's where we stand now. I mean, it looks like based on the winnings that we had before this week combined to what we may have in the championship week on Underdog, we may be taking away about 50 this year. Could be a lot higher because obviously these are tournament style draft contests, and somewhere like Best Ball Mania, the prize is $2 million to first, $1 million to second, 500 for third, blah, 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 blah. So we have a lot on the line this week. It will be a massive sweat for us. I will keep y'all updated. We'll definitely make that in-depth video with how all our Underdog drafts did. But as we set this up, we are going to go through. We're going to look at every game this week. We're going to be looking at the player props on Underdog as well. So if you want to check out any of these player props, if you want to get in a draft with us next season on Underdog Fantasy, you can find the link in the live chat, the description of this live stream, the comment section if you're watching this as a video later on. When you sign up for Underdog and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You can check out any of these player props, get in a draft with us, available in damn near every state. It is a ton of fun. As you can tell, I'm a little addicted. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's look at game by game here with Teddy Bridgewater going up against the New England Patriots. No way in hell you can start Teddy B himself. I mean, I understand that you have a great situation with Tyreek as well as with Jalen Waddle. Tough matchup against New England. I'm not wanting to start Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson either, just given the fact that it's very difficult to figure out how they are going to break down the touches in this backfield between those two guys. Now, we are going to be looking at Jalen Waddle. This is a player that we've had a ton of questions surrounding. And yes, 100%, you have to lower your expectations down with Jalen Waddle. Earlier this season, you used to see his player prop hovering in the mid-70s for his receiving yards. Now it's down to 58.5. I would love to take the more than, but we decided to only choose 5 player props for this video, and I have 5 better ones than this. So we decided, you know what, Jalen Waddle, don't take the player prop, but in reality, you definitely need to have him in your starting lineup. For the New England Patriots, not much to discuss here when it comes to the player props. Obviously, you still have some questions surrounding the running back availability, whether you're going to have Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, Damien Harris without Ramondre Stevenson or Ramondre Stevenson. We don't know yet. All I will say is you start Ramondre Stevenson regardless. And then this is someone I thought we'd be able to start at this time of the year. But with Deshaun Watson, he has been significantly more disappointing than I thought he would be. Can't start him as a top 12 quarterback, even with all the injuries that we've had. Nick Chubb, tough matchup going up against Washington. He has struggled as of late. You still have to go through. You still have to play Nick Chubb, even in that tough matchup. Amari is going to be a mid-wide receiver too for me, but one player that I actually kind of like the player prop on is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones here. We're going to be taking the fewer than 49.5 receiving yards, going back to what we were discussing with Deshaun Watson, just being so much more disappointing than we thought he would be. And if we're going to be looking at Donovan Peoples-Jones, if Deshaun Watson was going to be effective, if Deshaun Watson would have been out there crushing, then hell yeah, you could start Donovan Peoples-Jones in fantasy. But nope, not with how the quarterback play has been. You bench Donovan Peoples-Jones. I don't even mind taking the fewer than on his receiving yards. Someone else in this game we're going to be taking the fewer than will be with Brian Robinson. Now, we said this when we made our running back rankings video, and we did not rank Brian Robinson just because we didn't know the availability of Antonio Gibson. We had no idea where to put Brian Robinson. But we did go in depth at the end of the video saying that if Antonio Gibson were to miss, Brian Robinson is a must-start running back in fantasy. It doesn't matter if you're playing in a PPR league, a non-PPR league. With no Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson is minimum a mid-running back 2, and he needs to be in your starting lineup. And if we're going to be looking at his 75.5 rushing yards, 17.5 rushing attempts, don't really like those lines to bet against the man because I think he will be very good with no Gibson. But to have a rushing touchdown mark, I mean, I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game between the Cleveland Browns and Washington if you're going to be looking at Las Vegas totals. We know that Carson Wentz will scramble a bit here. If this was total touchdown for Brian Robinson, maybe that would be close enough for us to take the stay away. But if it's specifically rushing touchdowns, or even if he catches the ball for a touchdown, it's not going to count. I think we can go through and take the fewer than. With Terry McLaurin, you start him. We don't need to talk about it too much. I know a lot of people are saying, okay, well, how's Carson Wentz going to affect who we play between Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas? In reality, if you made the fantasy football championship, come on. I don't think we are going to be looking at any of those options as viable plays. Now, going over to Arizona, right now we don't have a line for DeAndre Hopkins because we don't know the availability of DeAndre Hopkins. Later on today, I'll be getting y'all an updated injury video, and then late tonight we'll be doing a live Q&A where we can go through and we can give updates regarding DeAndre Hopkins and his health. With James Conner, though, you know you're going to be playing him. The man sees 95% of the snaps, 95% of the touches. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say that because we've been saying it every single day for the past 2 months. Now, looking at Atlanta, yeah, you're going to go through. You're going to play Tyler Algier. I don't really want to start anybody else with Algier. If you wanted to take the fewer than 75.5 rushing yards, not going to fault you at all whatsoever if you wanted to go that line. But he has to be someone in your starting lineup based on the play that we've had over the past 2 weeks. Lawrence been phenomenal over the past 2 months, essentially, but I don't really like the matchup against Houston, where this game doesn't really matter at all. The line's been moved down where the Jacksonville Jaguars are only 4-point favorites. I mean, you still start ETN. I mean, with Kirk, Zay Jones, they are very much borderline plays. Really, the only must starts in Jacksonville, in my opinion, are going to be Travis Etienne as a mid running back too, and then Evan Ingram, who's been dominating the targets here. Now in Houston, you're not starting anybody. I don't freaking care. For the Giants, you're not going to be starting anybody. I mean, if you wanted to start Pittman in a full PPR format, there you could. If you're looking at Zach Moss in a non-PPR league, sure, we don't really need to discuss that. I mean, with the New York Giants, you start Saquon Barkley. Barkley's been phenomenal in games where the Giants have actually been able to have a lead and win, and that's exactly what they should have going up against the Indianapolis Colts, where Nick Foles threw 3 interceptions this past week. Now, going over to Denver, you have Russ, someone that you need to be benching. You have Latavius Murray, in my opinion, that is also someone that you should bench, and that's why we were going through and taking the fewer than 58.5 total yards with Latavius Murray. Let me just go ahead and confirm that Chase Edmonds is playing this week, because I was actually very surprised to see this line on Latavius if you're considering the fact that, hell, last week, Chase Edmonds came out and he split the backfield between him and Latavius damn near 50-50. And yeah, Chase Edmonds should be good to go. So if now you have Murray in a 50-50 backfield split in one of the worst offenses in the NFL, going up against a team where they're not going to be able to run the ball against them because the Chiefs will put points up on the board, I think you can take the fewer than on Latavius. I don't want to start a single Denver Bronco. Now going over to Kansas City, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco, Jarrett McKinnon, you can start them if you need to. I'm in reality going to try to avoid it just because I have no idea how the backfield's going to break down. I think it is close to a 50-50 split. We know that the Kansas City Chiefs will be throwing the ball inside the red zone, especially knowing that this game really doesn't matter. They're going to win this game easily, and I think they want to rack up as many touchdowns for Mahomes as possible here at the very end to make sure that he gets that MVP. Kelsey, you start. Juju's a borderline mid-wide receiver too. Not too much to discuss here. Going over to Carolina, one big bet that I want to make this week is the Carolina Panthers take a significant step backwards compared to where they've been over the past month. Now, Carolina, especially this past week against the Detroit Lions, was phenomenal. Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard accounted for almost like 220, something ridiculous total yards for the Carolina Panthers here. Chuba Hubbard himself had over 120 rushing yards. The man was fantastic, but going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think that this is not necessarily a get-right game for the Buccaneers. It's probably a poor way to phrase it, but it is a game that will be incredibly important, and you will most likely have, in my opinion, the Buccaneers defense taking that step up, limiting the Carolina Panthers offense, and I want to be betting against the second string running back for the Carolina Panthers against a decent rush D. So we're going to go bet against Chuba Hubbard, even though if he's crushed that line as of late. Now with Tampa, you can start Rachaad White with major hesitancy. I mean, Leonard Fournette's going to be a must-start guy in a full PPR format, just given the work that he has as a pass catcher. If you look at his player prop, it's at 28.5 receiving yards. Chris Godwin's a must-start name. Evan's going to be that borderline mid-wide receiver too. So it depends. If you're in a 10-team league and you're stacked, you're probably not starting Mike Evans. But if you're in a deeper format, then yeah, you're going to have to go through and jam him in. Just hope that you get that big game. But now going over to the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, this is supposedly the highest scoring game of the week, according to Las Vegas sportsbooks here. You have Fields at 73.5 rushing yards, 181.5 passing yards. Montgomery, probably a must-start running back, just given how high scoring this game should be. Jared Goff, in my opinion, will be viable. Obviously, he's not going to be as good in fantasy as Justin Fields. Swift is okay, but in reality, we have to be very hesitant with DeAndre Swift in that this is a 3-man running back by committee. In reality, I think this guy scores the majority of the points here. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown goes out there and dominates. I believe we had him ranked as like the wide receiver 4 or the wide receiver 5 this week, something very aggressive. But now let's go over to New Orleans, where Alvin Kamara will be someone that you have to start. I know a lot of people are very worried about Alvin Kamara. A lot of people wanted to bench Alvin Kamara for freaking Hassan Haskins out there. Laughable. But anyway, with Kamara, he's at 83.5 total yards. You have to play him. Olave is a mid-wide receiver, too. It's just going to be dependent on what you feel with Chris Olave. It's a tough matchup going up against Philadelphia, but the Saints are technically still playing for something here. And then with the Eagles, I'm not going to fault you at all if you want to go play Gardner Minshew based off what we just had this past week against a very tough Dallas Cowboys defense. Miles Sanders, a must-start running back. A.J. Brown, a must-start wide receiver. Devonta Smith, a must-start wide receiver. Dallas Goedert, a must-start tight end. Nothing to discuss. I don't really care to take one side on these player props. You just have to start as many Philadelphia Eagles as you can every single week. Now, going over to the 49ers, this is a spot where we've had a ton of questions surrounding Brock Purdy. Don't start Brock Purdy. You have no Deebo Samuel. The spread on this game is 10.5 points. While Brock Purdy, yes, probably going to be a good real-life quarterback for the 49ers and get the job done, they're going to be able to play great defense. They're going to be able to run the ball. The most painful thing ever is seeing our guy here with Josh Jacobs having a player prop so low at 72.5 total yards. You have Devontae Adams at 59.5 total. So I still think we have to go through and start those two guys in a horrible matchup in what will be a horrible offense. But you just have to dramatically lower your expectations down to compare to what they've usually been. And then Mike White will be a viable play, in my opinion, going up against the Seattle Seahawks. I definitely would rather play someone like Mike White rather than Brock Purdy. And if we're going to be looking at the other options for the Jets, Garrett Wilson, must-start name. Outside of that, don't really care about anybody else. Then in Seattle, Geno Smith. Don't really want to play him. Very tough matchup going up against the Jets defense, of course. We know this is one of the better defenses in the NFL. Kenneth Walker will be a must-start running back, though, and trust me, we are definitely going to be rooting for Kenneth Walker. DK Metcalf, must-start wide receiver. You have Lockett coming back most likely off the lower body injury. Lockett will be lower in our expectations this week just because he's coming off an injury, and at the same time, hell, it is that tough matchup we discussed. Now, going over to Minnesota, Green Bay. Based on the teams that we advanced, y'all know we showed at the very beginning how we may end up winning anywhere from 50 to 100 on Underdog this year. We had a phenomenal season top to bottom. One way that we can break that 100,000 mark is if this man balls out. Should be a high-scoring game. I'm sending up prayers for Kirk Cousins, for Justin Jefferson, for Adam Thielen, for TJ Hawkinson. We have a couple teams with Minnesota Vikings stacks. I know a lot of people have Minnesota Vikings stacks just because they've been very good over the past few weeks, but we're really wanting a big game there. And honestly, I'm kind of wanting a big game from Aaron Rodgers and the Packers as well, just because we want the Minnesota Vikings staff to throw the ball, and should be a very good matchup for Aaron Rodgers. Looks like Christian Watson most likely not going to play, at least in my opinion. I don't think so. And then Aaron Jones completely off the injury report. So you play Aaron Jones. I'd say A.J. Dillon. Now going over to the Rams, Cam Akers is someone else that we are rooting for heavily. But it's a great matchup for Akers going up against the Chargers. I think he's going to be one of the only players you can play for the Chargers. The other name will be Tyler Higbee. And if we're going to be looking at the Chargers here, Justin Herbert, still a must-start quarterback in my opinion. Eckler, must-start running back. Keenan, must-start wide receiver. Mike Williams, borderline play. I'd like Mike Williams a little more in a non-PPR format where you're betting on the big play. You're betting on the touchdown rather than betting on the passing volume. But going over to Pittsburgh, this should be the lowest scoring game of the week if you're looking at Las Vegas sportsbooks right now. So I would avoid everybody we can. If you needed to start Najee Harris, I'll be fine with it, just knowing that he does have the guaranteed volume. If you needed to start Pat Freiermuth, I'd be fine with it just because the tight end position is so damn ugly. If you needed to start J.K. Dobbins, I'd be okay with it in a non-PPR format. Start Dobbins in that non-PPR league. He's not going to catch the ball for that full PPR format. I'd be a little bit nervous there. And then you can also start Andrews, even if you have to lower your expectations dramatically, just because the rest of the tight end position is so damn ugly. But now for the Buffalo-Cincy game, fireworks. Not much to discuss. Jamin Allen, Singletary I don't love because the role that we have with James Cook. I like Stephon Diggs so much in this game. Not only do I think that he is obviously a must-start wide receiver, but actually like taking the more than 73.5 receiving yards. I understand that Cincinnati does have a respectable defense, but come on, this should be such a high-scoring shootout game. Something I want to root for is points scored in this game. To have Stephon Diggs down there at 73.5, that does seem pretty damn low. You start Burrow, you start Chase, you start Higgins, you start Mixon. Let's not overthink that. But I think that should be it. Please wish me the best of luck. Hopefully these numbers get a lot higher this weekend. But I think that's all we have for you. If you enjoyed this video, go down there, drop a like. If you want to check out any of these player props, link in the live chat, link in the description, link in the comment section. Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up 200. And you'll get our 2023 Dynasty rankings. But I think that should be about it. Thank you again, everybody. I appreciate you. We'll be live later today with injury updates. And, of course, we'll be live tonight answering fantasy football questions. I hope you all have a great one.